Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar for jail administrators entitled Building Networks for Successful PEPs in Jails. Before beginning, I want to share that this is the third and last installment in a three-part webinar series designed to promote high-quality post-secondary Pell-eligible programming in jails. I use the term PEP throughout the presentation, and that stands for Prison Education Program, which is a label ultimately granted to post-secondary programs in jails and prisons by the U.S. Department of Education. The first webinar covered the basics of the new PEP regulations and how they can be used to launch programs of quality in jails. The second webinar covered the implications that the new regulations had on jails and which populations confined in jails were eligible for PEPs. In this webinar, it's going to cover how to use collaboration and networks that can lead to the successful development and implementation of PEPs. My name is Maurice Smith, a program associate at the Vera Institute of Justice, and I will be moderating and presenting during today's session. Joining me today to speak on the topic of building networks for successful PEPs are LaShetta Wilder, the Director of Education for the Mississippi Department of Corrections, and Peggy Kaiser, the Executive Director for the Correctional Education Association. Today, I will briefly review the Second Chance Act and some funding information, as well as some additional information about the National Reentry Resource Center, before transitioning to a brief overview of relevant PEP processes and other processes that greatly benefit from networking and collaboration. We will then hear directly from LaShetta, who is actively utilizing networks to navigate the PEP process in both the state and regional correction systems in Mississippi. And last but not least, we will invite Peggy to share some information about the Correctional Education Association and the benefits that they offer. Before we jump into the main content of the presentation, I want to uplift the fact that this work is supported by the U.S. Bureau of Justice Assistance. The grant number and other relevant information is displayed on the screen. We must note that the points of view or opinions do not necessarily represent the official opinions of the U.S. Department of Justice. And here is some additional information on the Second Chance Act. It supports state, local, and tribal governments and nonprofit organizations in their work to reduce recidivism and improve outcomes for people leaving incarceration. The Second Chance Act has supported over $600 million in reentry investments across the country. Passed in 2018, the Second Chance Act Reauthorization Act builds on and strengthens the initial landmark legislation. And now for some information on the National Reentry Resource Center. The NRRC delivers technical assistance and training to Second Chance Act grantees, advances the knowledge base of the reentry field, promotes what works in the reentry and successes of grantees, facilitates peer networks and information exchange, and provides information for people returning to communities and their families. Currently, the CSG Justice Center operates the NRRC as a collaborative project of BJA and OJJDP. The primary mission of the NRRC is to advance the knowledge base of the reentry field. The NRRC serves as a convener and coordinator of Second Chance Act grantees. I'd like to start by saying that this presentation does not include a comprehensive overview of the regulations. Please refer to the first two webinars for that foundation level information if you have not done so already. So now I will briefly discuss eligibility. Up until 2023, people confined in jails were allowed to continue using Pell in the same manner that students on the outside could utilize Pell. The ban on Pell specifically applied to people who were confined in prisons. However, now these new regulations apply to anyone who is criminally sentenced, regardless of whether they are in a jail or a prison. In order for people who are criminally sentenced to utilize Pell, the post-secondary institution, in partnership with the jail, must become an approved prison education program. I also want to touch briefly on the best interest determination. This is a process conducted by the oversight entity to ensure that the college is operating in the best interests of students. There are minimum requirements to determine whether the program is operating in the best interest of students. Compared to the students on the outside or at other college locations, there must be comparable experiences, credentials, and faculty, transferability of credits, and academic and career advising. Also, students must be able to continue their education at any location of the college post-release. These are the minimum requirements, but as the oversight entity, jail administration can add additional criteria if they so choose. And in order to conduct the best interest determination, collaboration is key. Oversight entities must receive feedback from a group of stakeholders, including, but not limited to, representatives who are incarcerated, individuals who belong to an organization representing individuals who are incarcerated, and state higher education executive office personnel. The feedback is non-binding, but it is helpful to factor into the decision-making process. And from there, the jail can decide whether the college will be allowed to continue as is, may need to modify aspects of their program, or must cease operations altogether. The oversight entity may also wish to receive guidance and recommendations from an advisory committee, but this is optional, whereas the stakeholder feedback is required. And although stakeholders do not technically need to be engaged until it is time for the best interest determination, which is when the college has been a PEP for 2 years, it is beneficial, however, to engage the stakeholders early. For instance, working with reentry organizations in this capacity can help to provide training to colleges who may not have operated in this space before. They could address topics like trauma-informed approaches and how to conduct career advising and licensing restrictions with licensing and restrictions in mind. They could also offer career advising for the college, since oftentimes they are more knowledgeable on things like licensing restrictions and have connections to fair chance friendly employers. They could also form partnerships to offer additional reentry support. Including departments of labor and workforce boards will also help to provide insight on local, in-demand jobs that offer a livable wage upon release. This can actually help the jail and college determine which degrees and credentials should be offered or prioritized. And now I want to take a moment to mention the possibility of a student voice council. Although optional, many jurisdictions across the country convene student voice councils to learn directly from the population of people that PEPs will directly impact. Student voice councils are student government bodies that exist within a correctional system and are made up of at least one student representative from each college program. These councils can create a regulated system of feedback to ensure student voices are heard and best practices are being met. It's important to regularly obtain student feedback because those closest to the problem are also the ones closest to the solution. It is also worth noting that representatives of the Student Voice Council can also double as stakeholders required by the PEPs, required for PEPs. Therefore, they can formally provide the required feedback in the PEP process when that time comes. Another form of networking must happen between the college and jail staff if a PEP is going to be successful. Ideally, logistics of how a program could run should be worked out before the college even applies to become a PEP. This way, the application is more thorough and the college and jail are not working in real time to troubleshoot challenges that could have been avoided. Agreeing to roles and responsibilities in advance and the processes for all aspects of PEP programming as early as possible will make for a successful PEP. In addition, there should be early communication to provide training to both jail and college staff. This is going to be a new process or a modified process at the very least. So all parties must be properly trained and buy-in needs to exist at all levels of the jail and college in order for the PEP to be successful. Regular meetings should take place in both the planning and implementation phase as well. This will ensure questions are being answered and challenges are being addressed in a timely manner. And one last piece of information I want to leave you with is the concept of consortia. These are a group of stakeholders, not to be confused with the stakeholders who provide PEP feedback, although there can be overlap in membership. But the consortia share a mission to provide quality and equitable education, which leads to successful reentry opportunities for students. A consortium can be made up of many diverse stakeholders, including colleges and universities, corrections entities, people who are currently informally incarcerated, nonprofit organizations, employers, local workforce boards, legislators, and more. The beauty about the consortia for jail administrators and colleges looking to start programming in jails is that the consortia already exists in many states. And it is very likely that your state's consortium would be happy to welcome you aboard. Depending on the structure of the consortium, there could be a subcommittee formed that specifically addresses topics related to jails. And I'll run through these quickly in the interest of time, so feel free to pause the recording to read a description of each of these in more detail. Although the purpose of the consortium varies from consortium to consortium, often the opportunities include advanced and strategic direction, educational pathways being developed within a network across the state, coordinated resources, enhanced communication with stakeholders, access to more data and outcomes, new partnerships, direct connection to employers, curriculum alignment and implementation, advanced use of technology, and enhanced student supports. If you are interested in seeing whether your state has an established consortium, we recommend getting in touch with the education director of the state's correctional system to inquire. Even if they do not have a consortium, it is always best to connect with the state ed director because they can be a valuable resource. So there were a lot of different areas of collaboration that I just discussed. So to recap, we discussed overviews of PEP stakeholders and the optional advisory committees, student voice councils, and the importance of early and regular communication between the college and jail administration, and the opportunity to engage in a local consortium. I want to thank you for your time, but we are now going to head into the portion of the webinar where we learn how to leverage connections directly from those who are doing the on-the-ground work in the field. So first, we'll hear from LaShetta Wilder, who is the Education Director of the Mississippi Department of Correction. She is navigating post-secondary education in both the state and regional contexts. So now I want to turn things over to LaShetta.
Thank you, Maurice. Today, we'll talk about how Mississippi engages not just with our state prisons, but also with our regional institutions in providing prison education programs. In the state of Mississippi, we currently have 3 state prisons that are partnered with either a community college or university to provide access to PEP programs. Our first facility would be Mississippi State Penitentiary, who is partnered with Delta Community College. It's also known as Parchman. We also have Central Mississippi Correctional Facility and Mississippi Correctional Institute for Women, who is partnered with Hines Community College. Delta Correctional Facility, who is also partnered with Mississippi Valley State University. Mississippi Valley was also part of the Second Chance Pell program. So it was one of our first programs to implement PEP within the state of Mississippi. Next slide. We are also working and partnered with our regional facilities, who are also partnered with some of our universities and community colleges across the state of Mississippi. The 5 regional prisons that we are currently working with is Bolivar Regional Correctional Facility, who is partnered with Mississippi Valley State University. Wilkerson County Regional Correctional Facility, partnered with Southwest Community College. Stone and George Regional Correctional Facilities, who is partnered with Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College. Alcorn Correctional Facility, who is also partnered with Northeast Mississippi Community College. With the 5 regional prisons, they have the opportunity to be able to work with the Mississippi Department of Corrections in developing their PEP structure. So these programs have decided to opt in and work with myself as the Education Director for the Mississippi Department of Corrections and providing them any assistance to move forward with developing their PEP program. Next slide. As part of our PEP structure, one of the ways that we have to start our process is we developed an advisory committee with the Mississippi Department of Corrections, which included an MDOC representative, which is myself, the Director of Education, and we also may bring in other individuals such as our education directors that are working directly in the institutions that are providing prison education programs. We also are partnered with the Mississippi Community College Board, the Institution of Higher Learning, any of the reentry organizations such as the Mississippi Center of Reentry, and formerly incarcerated individuals who are also working with us on decision making and moving forward with how we provide access to prison education programs. One of the first things that we do, and Maurice may have mentioned this in his presentation as well, is ensuring that you provide the proper conversation with the jails, the prisons, and or the regional jails. We also work with private prisons as well. But one of the things that we do is try to have that conversation with the educational institutions, the colleges and or the universities. We also ensure that the prisons and the regional jails are aware that the colleges and universities are interested in providing access to educational opportunities within their institutions. What we do is get the consortium together and we all talk to each one of these parties about how the opportunities that are there and the resources that are available through the consortium that will allow them to be able to move forward with providing access to those educational opportunities or access to be able to move forward as a prison education program. Next slide. The MDOC also partners and collaborates through with all of our higher education and prison programs, which constitute a partnership between corrections, the academic institutions, community-based organizations, which and nonprofits and other governmental agencies that may provide access and services and or other opportunities for either the MDOC and or the educational institution providing their access to our program. What we also like to do is make sure that we're all working together. One of the biggest parts of being able to develop partnerships is through our consortium, which we meet every month to be able to discuss how we're moving forward or how we can provide assistance to those that may be interested in developing their own prison education program. Next slide. We also, as I mentioned before, work with other correctional institutions. As the oversight the entity for corrections in the state of Mississippi, myself and along with the consortium did create documentation to be able to move forward with our prison education program. But as the oversight entity, one of the things that in partnering with our regional or private prisons is ensuring that the wardens are aware of what they will be able to or what they need to be able to offer to take part in the process of prison education programs being implemented into their facilities. I try to ensure that they know the processes, they know the communication, as well as they know the part that they take in being involved as oversight. Although MDOC is partnering with the regionals to move forward with their processes, I ensure that they are aware of their input and guidance in working with the educational institutions as well. It is not a one-man show, but it also is a collaboration of those parties working together between the MDOC, the regional and the private, as well as the educational institution. We also there are also liaisons between the two parties that are working together and ensuring that whatever information that those individuals need is available to them between MDOC and like the consortium who also helps work through these processes, as well as with the regional prisons and the private. We also provide communication and collaborate together on providing special events for our partnerships between each of those entities. One of the things that we do is we have graduations for our participants in the program. If we have completion ceremonies, we make sure that we share those events and or invite those other institutions to be able to provide support and or see what's going on inside of the other institutions that we are working or partnered with. And I say as part of that, the consortium has been a huge part of being able to get the work done between the colleges and the prisons and our other partnerships. Even when it comes to providing funding to be able to continue our programs within the institution. One of the organizations that we do work with is the Humanities Council. And the Humanities Council provides support for academic access, such as instructors, books, for them to be able to start programs while they're working on the implementation of becoming an actual prison education program. With the academic institution, they do work and partner with one another, and not just with the MDOC, but also between the colleges. With MDOC, there are written agreements that we provide, or that is actually a requirement of becoming a prison education program. With those written agreements is a memorandum of understanding, as well as a data exchange agreement that we have between MDOC and the institution, the correctional institution. Between the colleges and the universities, there are matriculation agreements that they are partnered to develop. We call it a 2+2 program here. So if we have a community college that is currently working with one of our correctional institutions, and we have a university that may be interested in coming on board, to assist in furthering the education of those that may complete an associate's degree or any other post-secondary certification. They may want to transition to a university. So the university and the community colleges are working together to provide that transition, the support for the transition for those programs. There's also community-based organizations and nonprofits that provide support, and I mentioned the Humanities Council as one of those entities that provide support to our prison education program. We provide reentry resources that are related to employment, housing, legal services, family wellness, education, and physical and mental assistance as well. We also provide trainings which may assist with resume writing, job fairs, and other professional development programs. We work with our Mississippi WIN job centers that provide assistance to our individuals that may either come inside of the facilities, or once an individual is transitioning from corrections into the community, we provide information for those local WIN job centers for those individuals to go to those local WIN job centers to get us access to employment information, assisting with resume writing, as I said before. And we also partner with employers across the state that will either come inside of the correctional facilities and provide support to those individuals and giving information about those employers. Like I said, we mentioned before, was the consortium and how it has provided a huge support in the partnerships and collaborations with the MDOC prison education programs. The consortium provides a collaboration and interconnection of networks for higher education and prison programs. They also forge the connections among various stakeholders. They facilitate the conversion between educational institutions, correctional facilities, and community organizations. They also provide the support that develops and implement the effectiveness of programming that will meet the diverse needs of incarcerated individuals that are participating in our educational program. One of the programs that was developed through the consortium that works with one of the partners of the consortium is Get to College, which is through the Woodward Hines Education Foundation. That program provides support for individuals that may need assistance in completing their FAFSA while they're incarcerated and after their incarceration as well. Words of wisdom for the programs or institutions, correctional institutions, jails, that may be interested in starting a prison education program or partnering with educational institutions. I would say get involved with the consortium. The consortium has been a huge part of MDOC being able to make those connections with the educational institutions across the state of Mississippi. When those parties come together, we're able to provide as MDOC information to those educational institutions who are interested, and they also provide us information on how those processes can move forward. I know each of us are separate, each of those institutions, one education, one correction, so they operate, of course, differently. But when you bring those parties together in the consortium, they provide each other with a wealth of knowledge from each side in being able to provide successful prison education programs to those that are interested in partnering with the Mississippi Department of Correction. One key piece of being able to have successful programming is also engaging in those monthly meetings with the colleges and universities. So each month of those programs that are partnered with MDOC, we're having meetings talking about how the programs are moving forward, what assistance needs to be provided in the institution, what does the participants, our students, need. We also get information from them on how to move forward with programming, what's missing from those programs. Those are some of the things that are discussed in those meetings, as well as they are preparing for and becoming a prison education program, the questions that they may have for MDOC or within their institutions that they need to bring to any other organizations as well in providing that assistance in moving forward in their development as a PEP program. And also our community partners. Without our community partners, some of our programs would not be able to move forward, especially when it comes to funding and also providing the resources for those individuals that may need, that are transitioning from the institution into our communities, and also ensuring that once they are transitioning, that the colleges have the reentry information that they need, or the reentry resources that they need to assist their students in becoming better as they move forward in their education. I also provide site visits to our correctional institutions while they're providing classes to our students. While we're doing that, it also gives in those site visits, let the students know how important these programs are when they have executive administration or outside visitors to come into the programs while they're there. It shows their interest in the buy-in, and how important it is for those programs to continue. And in the student engagement, we ensure that we allow the students to be able to share their voices as they continue into those programs. Without the students, we wouldn't be able to have the programs that we have. And their information or their knowledge or their input and guidance is also just as important as the staff from the educational institutions as well as the correctional institutions. So when we involve their input or buy-in, it also allows us to be able to those programs to be able to move forward in having successful programming. That concludes the information that I have for you all. We will move to the next presentation, or my information. I have also provided for you my contact information on the slide, the last slide that I have. So if you all want to reach out to me for any questions or any information regarding development of a prison education program in your jail or your correctional institution, please reach out and do so. Thank you.
Thank you so much, LaShetta. In the spirit of learning about as many resources as possible, we will now hear from Peggy Kaiser, the Executive Director of the Correctional Education Association, or CEA. So Peggy, I'd like to turn things over to you.
Thank you, Maurice. So who is CEA? The Correctional Education Association was founded by Austin McCormick, and that is his picture right there. And at one time, he was the president of the American Correctional Association, or many of you might know it as the acronym ACA. He was a strong supporter of education for those individuals that were incarcerated. And in 1945, he decided to break away from ACA and create his own organization, which today is CEA. CEA is made up of members that's comprised of not just teachers, but administrators, correctional officers, anyone truly who supports education in a correctional facility. So it isn't just an organization for teachers, it is an organization for anyone that wants to see those individuals who are incarcerated have an opportunity to go back to their communities with skills and knowledge and be successful once they return. Next slide, please. So here's my contact information. As Maurice said, I'm the Executive Director for Corrections Education Association. I have an executive assistant, Kiara Graham. Those are our email and our phone numbers. Just a little bit about myself so you know where I am with this organization. I've been a member of CEA for 30 years. In 2017 and 2018, I was the president of the organization, and I sat on the national board for over 15 years. 2 years ago, we were in a position of hiring the executive director. I had retired from the state of Wisconsin after 32 years. And so I decided that because this organization has meant a great deal to me, not only for my career, but also personally, that I wanted to stay involved with it, and became the executive director in October of 2022. This is probably the best thing I ever did with my career when I was working in corrections. I worked in 4 different correctional facilities in the state of Wisconsin. I also worked in the central office. I was the state education director at a period of time. And the last position I had in the state of Wisconsin is I was the deputy warden of a minimum security institution. But during that entire time, even when I was not in directly involved in education in an institution, I still continued with this organization because of the networking opportunities, the collaborations that take place between all of the states, and the fact that this is the only organization that specifically focuses on education in a correctional setting. And so I stayed involved with it even when I was not teaching any longer, and I was in an administrative role for all of those reasons. Next slide, please. So here are our goals, and we just recently redid our long-range strategic plan and came up with a 5-year plan. And these are our goals and our vision, our mission that we are looking to accomplish. One of the things is we do want to be the leading organization for educators within corrections, which, because that is our specific focus, I truly believe that we are moving in that direction. We also want to increase public awareness. I'm sure there's many of you that hear from people all the time that they're not aware that there's education opportunities, not only in prisons, but also in county jails. And so we want to make that awareness a little bit stronger in our communities. We also want to be the leader of professional development amongst juvenile and adult facilities. We want to take a look at our organizational structure and make sure that we are continuing to stay current with what's happening in the field. And then we also provide awards and scholarships, not only for our members, but people who work with our programs that may not be a member of our organization, but they strongly support what we do. And so we want to acknowledge those people as well. Next slide, please. So as I said, the Correctional Education Association is the only group of educators working in correctional settings. And what we mean by that is that is our focus is on correctional education. You can go to join other organizations or go to other professional developments, and there might be a strand of correctional educators. However, all of our professional development opportunities focus solely on those people working in those facilities. CEA also has insight into needs faced by special group of professionals. I taught in 2 different security levels in the state of Wisconsin. I was also the principal of a school, and we need to let people know what we are doing in our correctional settings. We also know what special needs we have within each other. We know what our barriers are. We know what certain terminology means more than in other educational settings. And we also are by correctional educators for correctional educators. Next slide. This is just a breakdown of our membership. As you can see, we are a smaller organization. We are growing. These numbers were a month or 2 ago, so they have gone up a little bit, but we have various membership opportunities. We have corporate members, individual members, which many of you would be an individual member. We have lifetime members, which that means you pay $1,000 over a 10-year period, or you can pay it all at once, and then you have a membership for life. We also have a rate for students and retirees, as well as we have institution and library memberships. They all have a few different benefits. So I'm going to talk about the individual membership, which also student, retirees, and lifetime fall under. Corporate, institution, and library memberships are a little different. They do not have voting rights. They do not get reduced rates to professional development, and there are a few other differences. So when we go to the next slide and we talk about what our membership benefits are, we're mainly talking about the individual, the lifetime, the student, and retiree memberships. Next slide. So here are some of the benefits. We're calling it individual membership, but again, these are the same benefits that a lifetime member would receive, that a student would receive, and a retiree would receive. So you do have a dual membership. If you become a member of CEA, you also are a member of COABE. And for those of you that are unfamiliar with that acronym, it's Coalition on Adult Basic Education. We partner with COABE when it comes to their correctional strand. We review the workshops that are going to take place at their annual conference. And so we are a partner with COABE, not only that you are a member with them, but we also work with them when it comes to the workshops that are provided at their their annual conference. They also have a prison literacy committee, which I sit on and represent CEA on that committee. You also receive 3 journals of correctional education, which is the only peer-reviewed journal on correctional education. And just a little bit more about the Journal of Correctional Education. It's the foremost and longest published academic publication in the field of correctional education, and it's widely cited journal in the field. Each issue, it includes historical and academic research, best practices for educators in the field, and/or insight on current issues and legislative priorities. In September of 2025, we are going to be transitioning to an e-journal format versus a paper copy. However, members can still opt to receive a paper copy of the Journal of Correctional Education for a small fee. You also have voting privileges, which we have an election coming up this next year for a few of our board officers, but also we have regional directors. Within our organization, we have 8 regions, and we have directors that oversee those regions. We also have a newsletter that we call News and Notes, and that is received electronically 4 times a year. It's more of an informational, letting you know when professional development opportunities are coming up. We talk about our Teachers of the Year. We have articles from some of our state chapters or from our regions talking about the best practices that are happening. We also have reduced conference registration fees for our members. Our next 2 professional development opportunities, our next 2 conferences. Our first one is the Forum, which will be held in Omaha, Nebraska, April 27th through the 29th in 2025. And then we have our larger conference in the summer where we recognize our Teachers of the Year, which is our international conference and training event, which will be held in Pittsburgh, August 10th through the 13th. And all of this information you can also find on our website as far as along with the registration and the call for presenters for our forum that's coming up in April. The deadline for those call for presentations is January 3rd. And I would really encourage you to put in a call for presentations about your programs in your county jails, because we do get a lot of requests for more workshops on county jails. One of my jobs when I was working for the Wisconsin technical college system is I oversaw federal grants that helped support programming in several of our county jails in the state of Wisconsin. So I understand that county jail instructors a lot of times are all by themselves out on an island. There's maybe one instructor, maybe that instructor only works 10 hours a week. And so they really feel isolated at times. Our organization providing these opportunities to you can give you less of a feeling of being by yourself. We also have something that's called monthly lunch and learns, which are an hour, and it could be on various topics, and we rotate amongst our regions as to who will be speaking for that month. Again, once you become a member of CEA on the national level, you also are a member in the region, and your state chapter may also have a membership. Not all of our states have a membership at this time, but we do have 5 states that are looking to become more active again within our organization. Some of your regions and your chapters may also have publications. I do, in the state of Wisconsin, we do have a newsletter that goes out to all of our members quarterly as well. You also get discounts on insurance through Trust for Insuring Educators, which is also, you might be familiar with by hearing TIE program. One of the things that is new to our organization is we have the Clouder app, where our members can reach out to each other, and we use this during our conference and our forum. We do have scholarships available to members to either attend our professional development or some other professional development that directly is related to education and corrections. And then we also select our Teachers of the Year. 2 other things that I'd like to talk about as far as with our organization that you can be a part of, and if you are a member, is our Council of Directors. And our Council of Directors provides a forum for individuals responsible for administration of correctional education programs, where they can share successes, challenges, best practices and initiatives between county, state, federal, and internal jurisdictions. Members can be from jurisdictions in adult, juvenile, and county corrections. So if you are a director of a county community corrections, you can be a member of the council of directors. They are open meetings. Anyone can come in and sit down and listen. When they do go in closed session, though, it is up to 3 members of each state that is a part of that group when they go into closed session and vote on various things. Along with the council of directors, you also receive a listserv for purposes of facilitating communication with other directors from other states. They have a meeting once a month that is virtual, except when we have our forum and our conference, then they meet face-to-face for a full day. It is probably one of the most beneficial parts of CA for our directors, our state directors, because they make connections with other states. It's very often, conversations are very beneficial. They're very rich. You get great best practices ideas, and you have an opportunity to reach out to other people and say, what are you doing with your PEPs? What are you doing with writing for various grants, or whatever your question might be? So the council of directors is a strong part of our organization. One other area that I just want to mention, and you do not have to be a member to go through our accreditation process, but I just want to mention that CEA does have performance standards that we have developed for education programs in correctional facilities, which we look at what we're looking at when we evaluate those are high quality programs. We do have standards for the county jails as well. So if you are interested in finding out more about our accreditation process, you can go onto our website and read a little bit more, or feel free to reach out to me as well. Next slide, please. So how do you become a member? You can complete the membership form and send it to my executive assistant, Kiara Graham, and there's her email address. Or you can go right online. Homepage, it says renew or join. There's a red button right at the top. You can just press on that button. You'll go right to the online form. Or if you're having difficulty getting through on either one of those, you can give my executive assistant a direct phone call, and she will take care of it over the phone for you. Next slide. And the methods of payment, we take checks, money orders, purchase order. If your facility does cover memberships, we can certainly send a membership, a purchase order. We also provide payroll deduction. We don't provide that. You need to go to your place of employment, find out if they will do payroll deduction. If they will, you can certainly give Kiara a call and she can walk you through that. But these are all our methods of payment. Next slide. We also have an executive board. It's made up of a number of people from across the United States. We have a president, past president, who sits on it for a year. And as you can see, we also have an international rep. We have a juvenile justice representative, and then our council of directors, which I just got done talking about. Our juvenile justice representative comes from the council of directors, and she is the director for juvenile justice in the state of Texas. We also have a chairperson for our standards commission, which you can see there. The next slide. And then there are all our regional directors. So as you look, find your state, you can see which region you are in and who the regional director would be for that. Again, this is all on our website if you would like to go there and look into it just a little bit more. Next slide. So here's our contact office information. Those are our office hours. Our office address is Virginia. That is where Kiara is located, and that's considered our headquarters. But as I said, I live in the state of Wisconsin. We have board members all across the country. Our international board representative is from Kenya. We have a representative from California, and we have one from Florida. So we go from the West Coast to the East Coast on our board. Next slide.
So thank you, Peggy. And also, again, thank you, LaShetta. Before wrapping things up, I wanted to include some final resources that may be helpful. I've included Vera's PEP toolkit and a few articles that summarize the PEP regulations, information on the stakeholder groups and consortia, and how to start a new college program in a correctional setting. I've also included the link to the CEA website where you can learn more about resources, benefits, and membership. And on this slide, I've included some support links directly to the U.S. Department of Education that you may find useful. And here are some resources that are specific to jail context. And that's all we have for this webinar. Once again, thank you to our presenters. Thank you all for tuning in. And don't forget to check out our other 2 webinars in this series. Our contact information is displayed on the screen should you like to get in touch with anyone that has presented today. So thank you, everyone. Farewell.